Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov Chuck. This is always a Shabbat I look forward to at the end of the summer. And last year we all missed it very much. I remember doing it on Zoom and it just was obviously not the same. So I asked a question about the verse in our Parsha from chapter 29, verse 28, that says, concealed acts concern the Lord our God, but with overt acts, it's for us and our children ever to apply the provisions of this teaching. And Rashi says on this verse, following the mainstream of rabbinic interpretation, that this has to do with communal responsibility. That, if I don't know that my neighbor is sinning, having all of these idolatrous thoughts, it's not on me to intervene. It's not my sin for standing by. But if I do know, then I am obligated to intervene. And the dots above the word that I asked you to think about, Rashi says that this is about interpersonal responsibility, but that did not commence until they crossed over the Jordan, which surely read about and Chuck in the Maftir. However, Nachmanides Ramban disagrees with this interpretation and says that the verse actually is about us. It has to do with our own behavior and not our neighbor. That we are responsible for our intentional acts, but the unintentional actions, the things that we don't realize that we did or will happen because of our actions, those are just mistakes and not sins, and thus they're God's responsibility. And Ramban quotes Psalm 19 that says, who can be aware of errors? Clear me of unperceived guilt. I think Ramban probably went in this direction because he was more of a pulpit rabbi than Rashi, so the high holidays were clear on his mind when he came to Parshat Nitzavim. But this becomes a significant issue, not only for us to be thinking about with the high holidays, but was a significant debate in the Talmud. And there's a parallel debate in the Tractate of Shabbat that deals with the concept of an unintentional act. Rabbi Shimon says that unintended acts are permitted, and Rabbi Yehuda says that they are forbidden. And this applies mostly to actions on Shabbat. But then this issue is carried out again about those same actions and whether they can be done on Yom Tov, since there are different rules for a holiday than there are for Shabbat. And Rabbi Eliezer, who's the son of Rabbi Shimon, comes and says that an unintentional result is okay. That if you're picking berries from a myrtle branch, you don't invalidate that branch from being someone said it, a lulav, okay? But then the Talmud disagrees and says that, no, you did invalidate it. It's no longer a lulav. And in the end, Jewish law mostly follows Rabbi Shimon's teaching, and that this leniency is the way we're supposed to rule. We're supposed to go with the lenient position, which is usually not the case today. But there's something about the more stringent position, especially in the high holidays, with our interpersonal relations and the way we are judging ourselves, that we shouldn't be so quick to take up the idea that I didn't mean to do that. It doesn't always work. And, both Jewish law in general and American law hold us responsible for negligence. It's not really enough to say that we didn't mean to do that. And I think this relates to the end of that verse that I read, that we're not always going to succeed in fully claiming responsibility for the acts that we didn't intend, but it's not right, nor is it realistic to just toss up our hands and say, whatever. That the only way we are capable of standing before God and really asking for mercy on the high holidays is if we take ownership and ask for mercy for the unintentional acts as well. And that leads to the conclusion of the verse. It says, hidden sins belong to God, but those that are revealed are ours and our children's forever. And the rabbis look at that and say, like, we can't be so quick to pass off those unintentional acts and say we didn't know about it, because our actions have consequences and we need to think about all of those. And there may not be a segue here, but I was really thinking in terms of consequences about the law that was passed in Texas. And I wanted to just, for a brief moment, I want us to spend more time on this and actually looking at the sources, but I wanted to just make note of the Jewish approach and the Jewish opinion on abortion, because the idea of unintentional actions, overt actions, I think are quite in play here, and who are the ones who get left on the sidelines and who is in real danger. From day one in the Mishnah, abortion is permitted. Judaism values life, as we all learned the phrase pikuach nefesh, if we didn't know it before. Life is determined, and this is in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, Ohalot 7:6, it clearly states the midwife is always to give precedence to the mother, that life counts upon birth. That's baseline. Okay, and I know that the debate is far more ranging than that, but the idea of that a fetus is a living thing is not something that Judaism believes. No matter what opinion you are seeking out, from the very earliest to the most modern, every rabbi or commentator says that is baseline. But then I went and I wanted to look at what the conservative movement has said on the issue. And I went to if you go to the Rabbinical Assembly page, you can find all the tshuvot. And if you don't have access to them, I can print them out for you, as we will at some later point to really look at these, because it's interesting and important that we're armed with not just our opinions and how we innately feel, but that we have real sources to back that up. And so the Committee for Jewish Laws and Standards, the Rabbinical Assembly's halachic arm, has put forth many tshuvot on every single aspect of abortion. And I just printed out one opinion from 1983. I don't know what was happening in the world at that point. It's fair to say I don't remember. But I printed it out because at the very top, it says, it gives you the voting record of everyone. And I was struck by just the names. Namely, they're all male. Abortion, the Jewish View by Rabbi David Feldman, and this follows many earlier tshuvot on prenatal testing and abortion by Rabbi Castle Abelson, Abortion, Major Wrong or Basic Right by Rabbi Robert Gordis, and the oldest, Tshuva on Abortion by Rabbi Isaac Klein, who some of you may have his book. Isaac Klein, I got this for my bar mitzvah. It's the best gift I got for my bar mitzvah. He wrote a guide on Jewish practice that was the norm in the conservative movement until a few years ago, when they tried to make something more enjoyable and accessible. I don't know about that. And Isaac Klein is writing in the 60s and 70s. And all of those positions, including Robert Gordis's Major Wrong, Basic Right, come down on the side of basic right. So this tshuva by David Feldman was 16-0 with one abstention. And they go into it from the view of when birth is determined. The Talmud uses a phrase, ubar yimach imo, which is a counterpart, as they say, to some Latin phrase that maybe Hal, you can read for us at some other point, that the fetus is deemed a part of its mother and is not an independent entity, and thus the ownership is to the mother. The mother gets to decide, and that is the case until the fetus is completely out of the womb, birth. And I just found a few things that I think are essential for us to think about and to know about this debate, which is as old as Judaism itself. I'm quoting here from the Tshuva, implicit in the Mishnah is the teaching that the rights of the fetus are secondary to the rights of the mother from day one all the way up until the moment of birth. So, and they point out that the current phrase, the right to life, which is still does not involve the Jewish way of thinking. And they bring in many different sources here. Maimonides, also a physician, who took a more stringent approach to abortion when it did not involve the physical health of the mother. Even he brought in the idea of the welfare of the mother. And there is a tshuva here from the late chief rabbi, or the late chief Ashkenazi rabbi of Israel, Izar Unterman, who also was not in favor of early term abortion when it did not involve the health of a mother, spent a lot of his tshuva going against his own feeling because of the welfare of the mother, not only in terms of life and health, but of mental anguish and feeling. There is a lot more here, and the positions are all over the place and relate to the current debate, but it's important for us to know where our tradition comes down, that not only is life determined upon birth, but that the mother's well-being is an essential part of the equation. And I don't understand the way America does it and the way America sees things, but that's not the way Judaism sees things. And if you look, there's been many op-eds written expressing opinion that is counter to the law in Texas and to the Supreme Court's decision. And those are written by rabbis who are Reform, conservative, and Orthodox. And we need to be able to arm ourselves not only with our opinions, but that our tradition has a lot to offer us. And I think we would be wise to find those. We turn now to Musaf.